Hi, folks, and welcome to another live discussion. I have the great pleasure today of having two fantastic guests. One you already know from this podcast, Lorenzo. He was here with us, I think it was in October or November, and it was a great success. So I thought we would repeat because the feedback was outstanding, and he was chasing me to say, let's do it again. And so why not? And Claudia, she's a newbie to this podcast. She was with me in a Portuguese one, but I said, this is the time to present her to the English-speaking public, but she's already known, but not in this podcast. So they have very strong and keen opinions on the EU as an institution, and I think they are very, very insightful. So you might agree, you might not, but I think at least will make you think, and that's the objective of this kind of conversation. So if you are into real and raw conversation, stay with us for the next 1.5 hours. If you enjoy this kind of interactions, award us with a thumbs up just below. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please do so. That's a great way to distribute the channel. And if you know someone who is not aware of this platform, share. They're more than welcome to join us. We have a chat box. It's open. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to say, we want to make sure this is interactive and dynamic, and that's the way we present ourselves here. So I'm gonna start with Claudia because she's new. So I always do that. Claudia, you are very welcome to this podcast. I want to say a disclaimer here. We haven't met. We are both Portuguese. We are kind of neighbors, but we haven't met in person. Maybe at some point that will happen.
Where are you from in Portugal?
Yeah, next time I come over, I think it will be.
No, where are you from in Portugal?
Where I'm from.
In Portugal?
Yeah. Very.
The Portuguese will understand this.
Stunning town. No one knows, so I'm still safe.
Yeah.
So, Claudia, let's start discussing about this monster called EU, and I think the way to target is to pick the main dragons, which I think are France and Germany. They are the big players. They are the big guys. So I would like to get your thoughts on how are they doing and their impact on the institution as such.
Can you repeat your question, please? I'm not sure I understood.
Yeah, so I'd like to get your thoughts on France and France and Germany. So how do you see the way they are behaving? What is their impact on the rest of the institution?
Okay. So they have more power in their hands about our future, where I include Portugal, more than I would like. That is for sure. For me, I think European Union is a concept developed around these two countries. They are very powerful in very ways, but they are developing in a very negative way. I think Germany had a huge hypothesis of changing things in the last election. They chose not to do it. I don't like the new chancellor. I don't think Mr. Merz will bring anything new to the table. In fact, we could see that he is in a coalition with the socialists already. And since the socialism is the biggest problem of a concept that has no way of working out, because that's what I think about the European Union. I think it's a lot of people tell me, Claudia, you don't like European Union because you don't like Ursula von der Leyen or the people who is in power at this moment. And I always say, no, I don't like European Union because I think it's a concept that simply doesn't work. So since we are all very dependent on the decisions of both France and Germany, and they are not taking wise decisions in the critical points, as the security and etc. To be honest with you, I don't think that our future will be that bright. I think they have weak leaders. To be honest, I don't find another good word for that. In France, they are trying to, and they will put Marine Le Pen and the opposition at the jail. So, what can we expect? Nothing very good for sure. So, I think Europe in general, it's like fighting a battle from inside. You have like a bloc more conservative that includes Poland, Hungary. I think Italy is going. It's been a good player. Like everyone thought Meloni would be so radical, and she ended up being pretty much the voice of reason. And now interrupt me, or otherwise I won't. Shut up.
You are new. You are new. You know, to the
I am.
newbies, I always allow some more time. You know,
No,
so
okay, but I think that's pretty much it. You have two big groups fighting: the group of the conservatives, as I told you, and the group of the progressives or
mhm.
liberals. I hate to call it liberals because for me, liberal is the classical liberals. Um, and it's an inner fight, and I can't see who will be the winner. But for what I can see at this point, doesn't seem that this inner fight will end very well, because as I told you, in France they already gave orders to put Le Pen in jail. I guess if in Germany AfD would have won, they probably did the same. I think they will start to control the elections result like this. So not very. I don't have a lot of hope, to be honest.
Lorenzo, so how would you evaluate the actions from Germany and France to this point, and how do you foresee their impact in the future?
I think that the European Union we currently know is basically monopolized between these players, France, Germany, Belgium as well. We have a sort of mainstream group that decides at the expenses of Mediterranean country like mine, Italy, like Spain, Portugal, Greece. And that's very risky because those countries, the so-called French-German axis, decides the economic development, internal politics, external affairs of these states. And you know, the European Union is a true betrayal of the original project known as the European Economic Community that developed thanks to the contribute of Gaetano Martino, our economic minister back in the 50s, and he wanted to promote free trade, the abolition of tariffs within European countries. It was a really interesting project because he wanted to announce free voluntary cooperation between European countries in order to promote free market capitalism, innovation, to promote a new development for Europe after the totalitarian age of the 30s and the 30s. Now we are seeing the emergence of a new Leviathan, big unelected bureaucratic super states that annihilates the liberties and the decisional powers of the countries who adhere to the European Union. So we are not seeing a cooperative system between North and South, East and West. Currently, the European Union is like a French-German shaped creature that panders and it's hindering the other nations. That's really dangerous from a libertarian point of view because many classical liberals believe that European Union could protect us from external dangers, from other threats. I don't believe so because our biggest threats come from the inside. It is Europe itself, because we libertarians, all the deep skepticism over government concentration, when a big bureaucratic system holds these powers at the detriment of national states, we are not going to experiment something positive. Brussels is becoming more and more powerful, And when the size and the scope of government expands, individual freedom contracts. That's a basic rule told by Ronald Reagan. Hope that Europe rediscover again the roots and the philosophy of the European Free Trade Communion. Nowadays, I see, a Europe that tries to design itself as a third position between the United States of America and China. It seems like the goalless dream of a European Union that goes from Lisbon to Vladivostok. It doesn't work like that. Europe should cooperate with the United States in order to promote Western values, capitalism, free markets, and the rule of law. Nowadays, Europe is, controlling prices, is going towards a military draft, is also eliminating basic rights, the rights to express freely. It's censoring several states and the politicians that are away from the mainstream, like Marine Le Pen. Claudia rightly said that. Also, Georgescu in Romania. The politicians who try to pull apart from the European Union are put in jail, basically. This is a betrayal of the European spirit and of the millennial civilization of our continent.
Yeah, so you guys touch base in something that I think is a very, very a matter of concern, that they started to put the enemies in the jail, which to me tells that they are lacking strategy, because that should be the last resort. Now, if you believe in yourself and in your crew, you go to the ring and fight. But now what they do, they just eradicate the opposition because they don't want to have any battle. For me, it tells that there is a crisis, and maybe they are aware of that. When Meloni got into power, Lorenzo, I will just stick with you because I remember you saying that she had some traits of socialist. Do you still stick to that opinion?
Yeah, I firmly believed it because Meloni comes from a political tradition that in Italy is called the social right. It is basically hardcore conservatism with some blendings from the socialist heritage of welfare state. She basically believes that free enterprise could be combined with a big government that spends more for the poorest people, but she doesn't understand that spending more means making people more reliant on the state, not making them freer and capable to create new opportunities and new jobs. I think that Meloni is a double-faced character. On one side, she's performing extremely well in foreign policy and is trying to build a bridge between the United States and Brussels. That's a very interesting and clever strategy. But on the other side, the economic field isn't her speciality. She promised to cut taxes, to eliminate regulation and reckless laws. She hasn't done this already. However, the worst thing about Italy is the alternative to Giorgia Meloni government is even worse than her, because we are talking about hardcore leftists who doesn't recognize the status of Israel, who want to disconnect every kind of relationship with the United States, and are economically even worse than Meloni. Meloni has some positive traits, some negative habits. I think that, unfortunately, or likely, I don't know if it's the right thing to say, our government is the best guarantee for Italy at the moment, and I hope she stays in power despite having some different ideas on finance, economy, for example. So that's a paradox. She's not the best for my country, but other politicians are even worse.
Yeah, maybe it's fair to say that she is the best available option. She's not ideal, but that's what we have, and that's there's no other solution in the pool. And what I find interesting is when I talk to others, like people living outside of Italy, who are, let's say, on the right when it comes to the political spectrum, they all worship Meloni, maybe because they don't know the whole thing about her. And I'm not saying they are wrong or they are correct, but it's, and I raised your points to these people. I say I have a friend, Lorenzo, who lives in Italy, and he mentioned that there is something socialist about her, and they couldn't believe me. They said, "No, maybe this Lorenzo guy should be wrong." I was like, "You are not there. You are not there. Maybe like be a bit humble in your opinion." So I'd like to know, Claudia, what's the public perception in Portugal of Meloni?
Okay, I think in Portugal, everybody was scared of Giorgia Meloni at first when she appeared on the polls to be the next prime minister. Everybody was like, "Oh my God!" I remember I was in my former party, Iniciativa Liberal, where it was a bit shady for you to say, "Oh, I would like to see this woman win the elections," because everyone thought she's so conservative and whatever. But at this moment, I think she rise into a position that even European Union itself ended up recognizing it. That is a very important diplomatic position, personality. She's in that center point where she can talk with someone like Ursula von der Leyen, which I am sure she can stand her. They probably can stand each other. There's nothing that can unite these both women, and at the same time with the United States, where she had to listen some things that we all listen, and as Europeans we don't like, but she can hold that and be extremely gracious. Regarding to the socialism, we are not very aware, and that's the truth, about how she's dealing with the things in these terms on Italy, because every time we hear about her, it's always about the social component and not as much the economic one. In fact, we don't know much about the economic problems of Italy. We know, of course, that seems to be a common path between Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. But in fact, we don't really know what she is doing there. Regarding to socialism, I remember, and I even made a joke about her saying something about regulate the space. Something like, that's not because I'm friends with Elon Musk that I won't regulate the space. The space cannot be. And I was like, come on. I went to my ex and I wrote something like, see what I'm talking about? The woman wants literally to make rules for the space. How can she does that? And I remember a teacher, he's Italian, living in Portugal, teacher Ricciardi, I believe. He's very close to Chega and he studies these phenomena. And he wrote to me something like, Claudia, she's from a harder right-wing school in Italy. So trust me, she is performing really good. And there's another odd things like the feminicide situation.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's homicide. So one person kills another. Why? You would never expect someone from the so-called extreme right to say something like that. Well, so let's make law for feminicide. So the lives of the men are less worthy than the life of on the opposite. So the life of the woman are more valuable than the life of the man. So it's this kind of things. I recall having a small argument on X with someone who told me like Margaret Thatcher cannot be called a liberal because she was conservative in this and that and that and that. And I remember of saying that Meloni is way more conservative, as to speak, than Thatcher, because of that protectionist way of seeing the economics. I don't see that concernings on Giorgia Meloni. But I think at this moment, I tell you, I don't know the other options over the table. I don't consider her a radical at all. I think she has a very important position in this moment, probably the most important position. That bridge is the key. That bridge between European Union, as much as we don't like it, and United States is essential, and she can do that. So for me, she can take over. It's our best shot, really.
Are you familiar with the Patrick Bet David podcast?
You asked me if I heard that. What?
Yeah,
No.
that podcast.
No,
Are
no,
you,
no.
you
No.
Claudia Lorenzo? No, right.
Never
No,
read it.
no problem.
No.
I suggest you to watch. So there is a guy, one of the participants. His name is Adam Sosnick, and the other day he said on that podcast that there is a crisis of masculinity in the West, especially in Europe, and the reason for that is the strongest politician within the EU is a woman. Is Giorgia Meloni. Now,
Yes.
I don't think he's totally right. I think the strongest person is Viktor Orbán, but of course he is behind Hungary, and Hungary doesn't have the same authority that Italy has. Would you, Claudia, agree with Adam's comment that there is a crisis of masculinity in Europe?
That is, sorry, I didn't understand you.
A crisis of masculinity.
Crisis of
Masculinity.
Okay. I think I keep up with your thoughts about Orbán, Italy, and all that. I also think that Orbán is the strongest leader in Europe. I really believe that, because he's the most confrontational. Yesterday I saw something about him where he made it, I'm not sure, not illegal, maybe, I don't know, but something regarding the digital euro, where we will have it whether we want it or not, and probably mandatory, and probably for everything. And in Hungary, Orbán made something like you need to have the both choices, or something like that. So the possibility of the choice is becoming something really revolutionary. And yeah, but he misses the important part of the bridge, that bridge that I mentioned, that Meloni is, I don't know how, but she's extremely agile maybe, in doing so. Maybe because she's not too confrontational, and I think maybe that is some kind of characteristics that are not easier to have, but maybe easier to express when you're a woman. Like, let me tell you that I think I have a certain, I hate this word, but I can't find another one in English, a certain privilege sometimes for being a woman, because I know that as a woman, there is a lot of things that I can say. And it's like no one will put the fingers to me, because I'm a woman saying that. And if I was a man saying the exact same thing, I would be something with East. So in that way, I'm still a East something, but it's not that bad. So I believe that sometimes our inner biological characteristics help us in delivering a certain message. Yesterday, I was speaking with a friend regarding this Pope situation, totally different topic, but I was surprised. I'm not very into the church issues, but I was surprised to see a lot of conservatives. And when I say conservatives, it's hardline conservatives, like extreme right conservatives, claiming for a cardinal called Robert Sara, which is an African. I was like, whoa, my God, conservatives, they are like, I heard a lot of noise because of this cardinal, like in a very positive way. And one of my friends told me he is really good, but you know what helps him? The fact of his being African, it's like giving him an umbrella to state for some certain things that he stands for. And these days it's very hard. So it's like you need these clothes whether you are a woman or whether you are from a minority ethnical color of skin, whatever. I hate this, but it's the left that separates us this way. And yes, I think I'm not missing something, am I?
Oh no, you're just going all over the place, but
Oh,
that's good. That's what we want. That's what we want here. And I was just thinking, what else can separate Orban and Meloni? Well, the gender, obviously, but also the age. I think Orban comes from a different school. No, I think it's good to remember that Orban was already fighting the Soviets, back in late 80s. So he has a different background, and maybe that's why he's not prepared to certain approaches when it comes to politics. Now, that doesn't excuse, because you can
so.
renovate yourself. Age is not an umbrella for not being capable to embrace certain things, but it can justify. Lorenzo, I also saw that Orban is trying to ban the gay pride in Hungary. I would like to get your thoughts on this.
I'm not favorable to banning anything, despite not holding a favorable position to some demonstrations. I think that everybody here doesn't think that some parades or some gay prides are, a form of respect to other people, something they can seem blasphemous sometimes, a bit too provocative, too confrontational. I don't like that kind of self-expression. In my opinion, this is a much different topic really than individual freedom. Freedom is also a sense of inner responsibility. Exhibitionism is another topic. Said that, I don't think that banning things as a libertarian could be the right strategy, because maybe some extremists could, get this situation to be even more radical. Orban tried to do something a bit paternalistic, banning those parades to protect children who are walking around the street. That's good. But I don't think that prohibitionism, in every kind of sense, from an economic point of view, from a social perspective, could be beneficial to society. And I'm quite worried, because despite Orban very long and enduring leadership, is losing grounds among youngsters, and decision like that could even determine his lose at the election. Some pollsters say that he will be defeated in the next general election. So I don't think that religious conservatism, to a certain extent, could be beneficial. I'm not for banning anything. I think that everybody could do whatever it wants, but respecting some limits and some boundaries that couldn't be break down. So I don't like far-right extremism, people who think that certain groups of people are degenerates. I don't think so. On the other hand, I think that you must not be provocative, because respect could be mutual. So if I respect you, you also respect me. And turning back to the very interesting topic of homicide, feminicide, I really appreciate what Claudia said. And I will also recall the principles of what a great scholar of the Austrian School of Economics, Ludwig von Mises, said about gender roles. It theorized a concept that is called methodologic individualism, that basically means that men and women are equal in rights, in prerogatives, and in liberties. And he famously said, only the individual things, only the individual reasons, only the individual acts. So he didn't make any distinction based on gender. And we must rediscover this lesson, because nowadays we are seeing, alternative privileges or counter-majoritarian logics, so that if you are a black, kind of oppressed, non-heterosexual person, you can gain more rights than heterosexual or other categories. I think that Instead, we should go back to a different conception of society in which recognition is based on merit and not on personal characteristic. I know it may sound a bit out of the stream nowadays, but I firmly believe so.
Yeah, I actually had that discussion when I was in Portugal recently, Claudia and Lorenzo, whether merit is a good metric to define what people can attain in the course of their lives. And I spoke with a few left-wingers. No wonder, Claudia, I'm from Barreiro, so you can imagine what kind of crowd I need to deal with. And they will say, yeah, but certain people cannot get into certain places because they are born in that with that background, and they don't have the resources, they don't have the means. And I say, yeah, that's right. But everyone has their own league. Everyone can stretch and get to a certain degree in their life. So let's say I compete for a championship that others cannot, and vice versa. And that's fair. Like, I know I have my own league, and like I'm truly happy with what I achieved so far. I know that there are certain things that are probably beyond my reach, or they are very hard to attain, but I'm okay with that. I just need to understand what is ahead of me and what can I get hold of, and I'm fine with that. And I think it all leads to self-awareness. If people know where they stand, then they will see that makes sense to put some effort in your life. Of course, you can dream big, but you have to be realistic. Otherwise, you'll be frustrated all the time. But it's more of a psychological conversation. Let me go back to some of the countries in the EU. There is a part of Europe that I cannot really understand, and I've been there myself. I visited. I have friends living there. I have friends from there, which is Scandinavia. So Scandinavia, like in one sense, they sound very libertarian, but on other they are all into taxes, and they welcome all sorts of people. So I think there's a lot of contradictions in their policies, Lorenzo.
Yeah, this is a basic contradiction because they're opening the borders to people who wants to annihilate us, to destroy the basis and the core values of our civilization. So this is a very complex relationship with migration. And according to many statisticians, Sweden could become an Islamic majority country in 2050, and that this is really worrying.
Which one? Sweden. Okay.
I think the rest, this phenomena could be also related to Denmark, to Norway, Finland as well. But Sweden is experiencing a really worrying situation. Some neighborhoods in main city like Malmö in the south of Sweden, and also the capital city, Stockholm, it couldn't be reached easily due to the presence of foreign gangs. And migration is really a hot topic and a dangerous phenomenon in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries. You also highlighted the paradox of a libertarian-minded lifestyle with economic oppression. I think that economic liberty is the concept that builds personal freedom. So we cannot have liberty from a political side or from a personal perspective if we don't have individual liberty and the liberty to choose about our own savings, what to do in the future, how to spend our own money. If the government put its hand on our savings, we are not in a free society. And economic oppression is the first step towards the road of serfdom, like Friedrich von Hayek said. When we are depriving people of choosing about their own existence and their ability to create opportunity, to create jobs, we are going towards an extremely dangerous path. Scandinavian countries has this bureaucratic oppression that is hindering innovation, no matter that these countries are the one in the world that are growing the least. So I don't like Scandinavian countries, and I'm quite suspicious about them, both from an economic perspective, like I'm saying, but also for the social problems that still afflicts this country, especially as far as Sweden is concerned.
Yeah, let me tell you a story that I was told from actually my ex-girlfriend. So she lived in Denmark for a couple of years in Copenhagen, and once she was in a shopping mall, and there was this trendy multiracial couple. You know, there was a Danish girl and a Muslim guy, and the girl was just talking. Maybe she was upset with something that happened, and you know what the guy did? The guy just swapped her. She just swapped her in front of everyone, and she did nothing. And my conclusion was, if it was a Danish guy, she would do a TikTok, or she would tell her friends. But because it was a Muslim guy, then it was fine. No, it was fine. It's culture.
Shameful.
It's a shame. Exactly, it's a shame. I don't know if she what she was saying. But first, violence is never justified. But because it was done by a brown skinned guy, it was fine. No one said a word, and I think it's very appalling that there is these these double standards. Claudia, I will keep the same question because I'm very curious to see how you perceive the Nordic countries.
They are special for sure, and when I see they are special, it's like they seem no, they really are kind of detached. They are very different from the rest of the Europe, I think, and this have good points and bad points, pros and cons. In the first place, I think if we look at their societies, we can see the mirror of their society in the policies they adopt. Let's see, they are, I think we can tell economically, very well successful, but social democratic countries. That's for sure. Sometimes when we are speaking about the Nordics here in Portugal, I used to say, well, that's what happens when you have a socialist country, but at the same time, they steal your money, but they actually do something with your money. That makes the fact that they are stealing you better. Well, not really, but I think that's pretty much what's happened there. So they pay a lot of taxes, a lot, but they see they have good transportation, nice hospitals, everything kind of balanced. But at the same time, of course, there is lack of freedom. I have a friend in Denmark, and he told me that they have the same system we have in Portugal. I'm not sure if in Italy it's the same. I think it is. I don't think Italy has the Bismarck system, but the system where the state provides you, and if you want to have a doctor on private, you need to pay from your own money. So the Danish, they have the same system, and I assume that all the Nordic countries has this system. And this friend of mine, he told me, well, it's very bad because we pay a lot of taxes, and when we want an appointment, we don't have. So it's a systematic problem where things from the state tend not to work properly. But when we look to them, they are developed countries, they are rich countries. And I used to say that wokeism is a phenomenon of the rich societies because they don't have much to think about. If they has to think a lot about how to put food in the table, as we have to think in Portugal, they wouldn't have time to think about, oh, am I a woman? Am I a tree? What am I? So they have a lot of time to think about that because they practically have, as I say, first world problems. This is very simplist, but I remember that in European elections, I think it was in Denmark, the Greens that won the elections, and this shows you the problems of this society, what they are thinking about. They are in a very particular world where they are probably concerned about Greenland. Oh, what if Greenland runs out of ice or something like that? The polar bears. They don't need to think about the next day. And with that being said, they look at the migrants, and it's like the same thing. Oh, poor migrants, they suffer so much. We need to give. We need, because that's the mind of these social democratic socialists. We need to give. We need to help. We are so fortunate. Let's give. I remember that to see. I don't know how it's going on. That for Sweden they vote for a conservative prime minister, and I heard that he is giving money to migrants to come back to their provenience. I'm not sure if he is being successful in this or not, but every day, if we are very attent on, for example, some pages on X like Visegrad and Radio Genoa and something, you see that almost every week there's something going on in Sweden, whether it's a bomb that explodes. That seems very, very bizarre even for us Portuguese, like a bomb that explodes. Yeah, that happens in Sweden all the time. Now, the way they will going to deal with this as a society, I think at the same time Sweden, as in my opinion, for what I perceived, is the worst in what concerns to interests in the country by migrants. I think they are probably the first one to react with measures like that I pointed. Give them money and return to your provenience. The other ones, I think they will be more difficult to wake up. Denmark has this woke, this oh my god, we need to give mentality. Norway, it's another stuff, different stuff, because they don't even belong to European Union, so I'm not sure how they are managing it. And then we have Finland, which they have the other problems. They are always scared of the Russians and all and all and all. So they have very particular characteristics. I'm just very curious about the Swedish situation, to be honest, because they need to react. If Sweden falls, the rest of the Nordic countries obviously will go by rest.
Yeah, I'm quite curious too, because Sweden was my first country abroad, other than Spain.
Really?
Yeah, or Paris, but that doesn't count. Yeah, it was first time I went to traveling by myself was to Sweden in 2007, if I remember well, and I was the darkest person on the country and the most handsome. Now, if I go back, I'm only the most handsome, but not the darkest.
Yeah. It's very sad when I went to Denmark. It was like, this is very sad, because they don't really look at me as someone as exotic, but I'm short, so they can see I'm not Danish. But yeah, I don't know. They like us. They like us. Portugal, Spain, Italy, they like us for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not going to share. I'm not going to disclose stories here of my trip in Stockholm. That's for another time. It's in a book, so people can read it.
It's in the book, and they like the accent and everything.
They like the accent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Couple of other things.
how they say, the drunk Russian speaking Spanish or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's us.
The classic.
Just I don't drink as much as the Russians.
Ah,
As much as the Russians. That's the only difference. And I'm more into beer than vodka. So let's stay on the north. And divert to a couple of other states, the Baltic states. Let's think of what's going on between Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And Claudia, you just referred the Russian threat. I think that's a massive thing. Like, every time I talk to people based in those countries, they refer it. Now, I don't know how much of that is a real concern, but I'm very much into the Douglas Murray thing, that if I wasn't there, I try to be conservative in my approach, versus people that were there. Now, I don't think that you need to be there to know it, but that that makes a difference. That's why I cannot tell people in Latvia that there's nothing going on. So how do you see their role in the EU and the way they deal with the Russian war?
I think I'm not the best connoisseur, to be honest with you, about what's going on, but from a very detached perspective, every time I hear about these countries, seems to me that they are more conservative and they are presenting more barriers and resistance against some things that European Union presents than the rest. Currently, I look and I see Hungary, I see Poland, I see Serbia, I see these countries kind of resisting a little bit, and I think it's because these countries, they pretty much know the both sides of the story. Like, they know how the communists are, they know how the Nazis, fascists are. So I think they are a good judges. They can see the both realities, and for some reason, I think they tend to escape a little bit of this wokeism, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they want to be glued or be companions with Putin or Russian in some point. I think they seem to be very pragmatic. Like, don't even look at us. Please continue your work. Don't mess with our societies. Don't mess with us. Let us just be. And what happens is that sometimes it looks like European Union doesn't let anyone just be. And I think in that, concerning to that, I think they are even worse than Russia, because I do believe that the situation that Russia is holding with Ukraine is specifically with Ukraine. I don't believe Putin has any kind of idea to expand to Lisbon. I don't believe that, because he doesn't really have the means to do that. It's my perception. Of course, there is a lot of people that doesn't agree with me and think he's insane. I'm not saying he's not insane, but I don't believe, honestly, in the states that we are seeing the war, that even crosses his mind to, oh, well, Ukraine, now Poland, now. I don't think so. So I think as European Union is being slightly more aggressive in this join us, as we can see in Romania and in Georgia, we can see clearly there is some kind of social fight in these countries. What they try to sell us is the idea that everything is okay, that the elections on Romania was a fraud, but don't worry, because European Union will help and take care of you. It was a fraud. It was very bad. Putin is a very bad person, and he did a lot of TikToks. So it seems like Romanians saw some videos of people dancing and decided to vote for the candidate that doesn't like European Union. And it's strange, because you put another candidate, and it seems that the tendency of to choose the candidate who doesn't like European Union continues. So maybe we need to be clear about the situation, and simply realize that maybe that society doesn't want what European Union is presenting. That is way more, unfortunately, than an economic plan. It's the imposition of a way of living. And I assume that in these societies, if they have to choose, as it looks like, and I think in Georgia this is more bold. It's like, okay, we need to choose. So if we need to choose, if we really need to choose, which kind of society do we want? We want the society that European Union is presenting, or we even prefer, as bad as it can be, a society like the Russian one. So it's the kind of tensions that we are seeing in Serbia, in Romania, and in the other one I don't remember, but I think it's pretty much it.
Yeah, it seems that for these people, it's only democratic when things go their way.
Yes, it's
quite,
very worrying.
quite
The
ironic.
situation in
No?
Romania is extremely worrying.
Yeah.
Extremely. And the other one, I think it was in the one of Robert Fico. It's Serbia, Slovenia. So it's always the same characteristics, and it's always, oh, but the guy is a fascist. Fico is a fascist. Fico is a fascist. The last time I checked on the paper, the guy is a social democrat. So how can a social democrat can be a fascist? Oh, and then you read a little bit more and you understand. Oh, so it seems he told to European Union that he will lead his businesses and whatever, however he wants to do it. So that's where the fascism is. I don't remember who told me, but a lot of people about Hungary, they say, oh, but Orbán, he's very friends with Putin. And I say, I'm not interested in knowing if they are playing soccer or whatever at the weekends, but I think it's very legitimate as a head of state, prime minister, whatever, to look at your own interests. And sometimes your best interests, if you are Hungary, is not to have a huge problem with Russia or even receive their products, their products, the commerce, etc. Then no, well, you give us the gas cheaper. Oh yes, that's very good, but European Union doesn't let me to accept it, so I need to buy more expensive. So I think it's legitimate in a chief of state decide which is best, because it's very beautiful to say, oh, as a bloc we don't want anything to do with Russia or whoever, China, I don't know. It's very beautiful, but in practical terms, for some countries that could have more difficult implications than for the others, and that can't be ignored, and you can't simply put a blanket of fascism to everybody who sees that reality. We need to trade with Russia, or we need to trade with, I don't know, Turkey, China, whatever. We must follow the free trade.
Yeah, and this came to my mind, like the Portuguese gas, it comes from Algeria. I don't think Algeria is an example of democracy either. So people talk about Russia, which is actually close to Algeria, because they are both hardcore. No, Russia is not hardcore Soviet, but there are some Soviet traits about it. So, you know what I mean? They are both old-fashioned, authoritarian. So I don't know how Portugal can claim that the country is doing the right thing when it's getting gas from a place like Algeria.
Portugal has fallen. Unfortunately, Portugal, it's whatever European Union says, it's the way. Unfortunately, because when you look at the party who should stump and say, no, we are nationalists, we have our own interests, and we will fight for that. When you see that this party doesn't do that, and the liberals, they also don't do that, what's left? But I need to make a little appointment that the work that Chega, that I was speaking about, for patriots in European Union, is being amazing, trying to preserve this independence. It's a very different work that what is been doing in Portugal, where Chega doesn't even touch in European Union question. But patriots, they are doing, in my opinion, a very credible, hardworking job for the sovereignty of the nations. It's a shame that we don't hear about them more often, and when we do, it's fascism.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I met Andrea Ventura in Italy.
You were with Ventura?
I met Andrea Ventura and we took a photograph together. It was really nice,
really?
to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very.
He was always a very nice guy, to go for a coffee.
You talk about what? Sorry.
We talk about several stuff like economics, free trade, migration policies.
Economics must be very fun.
Yeah, he's very friendly. He's quite determined as well.
Yeah, you know that in Portugal we mock him a little bit because it's like he calls for a voter that is obviously conservative, that it's obviously very worried with everything, but it's not very wise or demanding in economical terms. So Ventura, he is very, very, very protectionist, and sometimes it's not even protectionist, because when someone is protectionist, you can, okay, this is how the person is, just like Meloni. This is how it is. I might like it, I might not like it, but I can see what it is. But regarding to Ventura, it's amazing. Like one day he wants our state-owned airline company to be public because he claims it's strategical, and our public the name, the planes, help me, Vitor. Companhia aérea.
Airline.
Airline, yes, our public airline company, it's more expensive than Cristiano Ronaldo. And one day he wants it to remain public. The other day he wakes up with another mind and no, let's make it private. It depends on the people he wants to call for him. The most funny one you will hear about, he mentioned, I think it was not yesterday, 2 days ago, he said something like, if we are increasing up the minimum salary, so we need to give some supports to the companies for them to be able to pay that salary. And I was like, oh, so this is the concept of circular economics. He's a bit I don't know, a bit silly, I think, regarding to
Flip-flopper. He changes idea very often.
very often, and sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense, so how can you pay some money to the companies in order for them to pay bigger salaries? Doesn't make sense, really. So I think I used to say that in Portugal we are so leftist that even our most right-wing party is a socialist.
Yeah.
And the center-right party is called Social Democrats. So I see
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly. Sometimes I think that Chega at this moment is more leftist than the Social Democrats who are in power. I see him voting a lot of things on the left of this government. Like they didn't allow the taxes over construction, the buildings, to be decreased to the minimum, which is 6%. So they are maintaining it at 23%, and we are having a huge problem with houses, as everyone in Europe do, the reasons we all know. So voting against that type of measure, it's something that I can't conceive, but here we are.
So there's one part of Europe that we haven't talked about it, which is no wonder because they're usually not on the spot. Which?
Our own?
Our own. Oh, well, yeah, Claudia. I think you
Please.
covered pretty well. I think I didn't have to mention. I think you covered pretty well, but we can focus on Portugal in a bit. I just
UK?
want to ask Lorenzo about the Balkans. It's a part of the road that no one talk about it, whether it's from a political point of view, even from a touristic approach, other than Croatia. No one talks about Slovenia. I mean, no, you just referred, but very briefly, Slovenia, Bosnia. I don't know nothing new, but Montenegro, all that, and Croatia, of course. Is there anything that you want to call out because you are closer to them geographically, so you might know something that we don't?
Yeah, I think, for example, Albania, a non-EU member state, is quite close to Italy due to tradition and, bilateral relationship. Despite having a socialist prime minister like Edi Rama, he entertains greatly with Giorgia Meloni. They even built a migration detention center in Albania. So they have some similarities, and they also share common values despite their political differences. Said that, I think that the Balkans is an extremely complex region to analyze because it's basically split into two parts. The first one is the western appendix of the European Union, the country you mentioned before, like Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary as well in the northern part. And there are some countries that are less keen to the influx of the European Union, like Serbia, Montenegro, or Kosovo. And Serbia, especially Serbia, is living a very turbulent era because of demonstration against the current government, which, according to mainstream media, collided with the Kremlin. I think that Serbia is maybe the closest country, the country that has the closest ties with Putin's Russia for strategic reasons. And Putin wants to expand in the Balkanic region from a more strategic point of view rather than a territorial one, because one of Russia's main ambitions throughout history was to have a spot on the Mediterranean Sea, especially to expand its commercial power. But don't think, like Claudia said before, that Russia has the ambition to take over Eastern Europe again. Maybe the European Union should mind its own business and care less about Eastern Europe, because I see a very aggressive, almost hawkish foreign policy of Brussels with Serbia, with other countries. If they want to be part of the European Union, we couldn't discuss about it. They could adhere and so on. But if they want to be neutral or to pursue a different politics compared to us, who am I to discuss it, to make them think to join the European Union despite they don't want it at all? So I think that from an historical point of view, we should leave Balkans alone. If we want to join us, that's a huge problem for them because the European Union doesn't benefit any country. If they want to become neutral, I think the European Union should mind its own business, as I said. There's nothing more to add.
Let me pass the ball back to Claudia. I know she's very keen to talk about Portugal and Spain. I think you have been very vocal when it comes to the Spanish government and the Spanish society as such. I don't know exactly why you're so interested or not. Let me tell you one thing, Claudia. The main thing I admire about you, I will tell you now on camera, is one thing you refer on X, I think it was a month ago, that it really sums up your approach to to things. Like you said, you follow ideas, you don't follow people, and that's why you end up by yourself very often. And Claudia, that really resonates with me. That's the way I approach what's happening. I'd rather be by myself, but at least loyal to what I think it makes sense, than surrounded by a team and holding a fake trophy. I think that's a silly way of living. So I'm very, very positive when I see people approaching that ethical. How do you navigate around in countries like Portugal and Spain that are so much collectivist?
How? Sorry, sometimes I don't understand your question.
No problem. So how do you navigate around like being so loyal to your ideas when most people just follow crews and tribes and groups, like it happened in Portugal and Spain?
I think our society is improving on this, honestly. I think the social media, especially X, made a big deal for us in Portugal. And these younger generations, they have less complexes in general than the previous ones, because it's generations that need to go abroad to earn more money, or generations that went abroad to see other realities while they were studying, and they were able to see that. It's a huge shock. Sometimes it's a huge shock when you even go to, I don't know, like Madrid. The first time I was in Madrid, I was like, oh, it looks like I'm in the center of the universe. Portugal is so cute, but so small, and this small reflects in so many things. And sometimes you think, how? This cannot be the Switzerland of Europe. We have everything, but we also have a very corrupt government. And as I told you, I think that as politicals, they do the possible to be popular. And until very recently years, it was very popular to be socialist, to be like Antonio Guterres, to be a solidary voice. But this new generation, they don't want it anymore. They see it all. They see the poverty, they see the problems with economics, the problems with migrations, and we are becoming more demanding. And at the same time, of course, the socialism is becoming more aggressive. If we look to our own society in a very specific way, the Portuguese society, the one that I know best, we can still find, and I believe it's the same thing in Spain, traces of socialist parties who used to be social democrats. And back then it was very difficult for you to make a big distinction between someone from PSD, social democrats, or of someone from PS, with some exceptions. But these days, this type of politics and this type of cute socialism, acceptable socialism, democratic socialism, as I heard Sergio Sousa Pinto always talking about his vision, because he's a socialist who doesn't look like socialist, and he always says, I stayed for democratic socialism, which is a funny concept to me. But this type of socialism doesn't exist anymore, whatever it is. Today, you only have a very aggressive type of socialism, or at least more declared in their intentions, which I think is the case, where they recognize they lost the battle regarding to economics, because it's visible in Portugal and in Spain. We are poor countries. We didn't work. We have the example that you know very well of Ireland, where they went bankrupt at the same time as we did, and they went to the path of economic freedom, and everything improved. But in Portugal and in Spain, we still hold so much like this is not working. Okay, this is not working, but it's not. We just need to make a small change here and that. But minister, look at the health. People are dying at the door of the hospital. So we cannot have a completely public system of health. We need to change it. Oh, so let's make these small changes with the private and the public, and nothing seems to change. And I do believe, as people today are more demanding, they were able to see how things went on those countries. Some ideas are becoming more popular, and they know they need to address these ideas, or at least create solutions to become closer to these ideas. Otherwise, they won't survive. Let's see, here in Portugal, if the same government win the elections, AD, and AD, for example, needs Iniciativa Liberal to be a government with them. So Iniciativa Liberal would have to be very naive to not say straight away there is 3 or 4 points. There's not much, I think, in which we need to present, to impose our plan, and that might be to ADSE to everyone, the public health insurance to everybody, because the system as it is, it's not working. For many years we tried the socialist approach, we tried the partnerships with the privates. It's not working, and we need someone to say this is not working, let's do slightly different. And I think only Iniciativa Liberal could do that, because it's in their program. The other ones, they can't conceive that. It's always about putting more money to NHS, the Portuguese NHS. And in Spain, as in Portugal, we have the other problem of the cultural socialism, because, as I told you, these two societies, Portuguese and Spain, they realize we lost in economics. So we need to fight on another field, which is the cultural field. And while we can secure the votes of trans people, gay, colored people, whatever labeled, let's give labels to everybody. While we are able to secure these votes, we will remain in power. At this point, these votes are not enough. And that is the reason they are openly saying, and Mariana Mortágua from the left bloc, she told yesterday in the debate against Ventura. Ventura, in fact, was very, very, very clever. He cornered Mariana in a debate that I think he was kind of losing until that moment, because he asked to her, do you want migrants to have the right of vote after 4 years in Portugal? And she was like, and he continued to ask. And she eventually had to say yes. She asked him, if you live in a building for 4 years, you don't think you have the right to say your opinion on the matters? And then he made a huge fuss. Oh, so you want the... And he is right. So they want these votes. Everybody knows, because it's the future electors for them. They abandon the workers' cause, the classical socialist idea of the workers. So the workers don't care about them anymore. It didn't work. The minorities are very, very few in number, and a lot of them are also not dumb, obviously, because it's not because you are gay that you need to be sympathetic with the left. And the left and the wokeism regarding to this matter of the LGBT cause, and at the same time open the doors to the religions that are not compatible, and okay with being homosexual, the left will create a problem, because very soon we will have fights between these two so-called minorities, and we need to preserve the freedom, the individual freedom. So, but I think our societies in general, in Peninsula Iberica, are becoming more conservative. I think it was societies that were always conservative, by all means, but conservative in the terms of we are like that. We don't want to change that much our societies. As funny as it is, I don't think wokeism glues in Portugal. I don't think so. We are very Catholic. We are very religious. We look at the things like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But yes, go and live your life. So I don't think
And we are
wokeism
poor.
has a lot of
That's another
land.
thing, Claudia. We are poor, so we need to get busy with other
Of
topics.
course, we need to go to work. So it's like, oh, you want to identify as a tree, go ahead. But if I wake up tomorrow and if I might be stabbed in the train, I might have to think about other things. That's why Chega is so high in Portugal for a very long time. Because we don't care if you are gay or lesbian or minority. We just want people to be free. And they are open the doors to types of religions that doesn't really want anything to do with freedom. So I would like to know how the left in the next years, and it's their problem, I hope they blow, will conciliate the situation where they claim to defend the homosexuals and trans and everybody, and at the same time they are opening the doors to Islam. It's incompatible. So let's see how they manage it. I think it's the end for them in Europe, but let's see.
Yeah. The time is coming for sure. Let's talk about players outside of the EU. I'll begin with Russia, Lorenzo. Is there anything that you can learn from the Russians, or we better uh, we better do our own thing and don't replicate anything that the Kremlin is doing?
I think the better way to ask that question is what should not learn from Russia. And unfortunately, I think that after the fall of the Berlin Wall back in 1989, many perverted socialist ideas that were the core of the Soviet Union gradually penetrated in the West and were absorbed by mainstream elites in Europe and the United States as well. So we can see a sort of Gramscian movement towards institutions and socialist idea marched gradually over this century, while the Soviet Union collapsed and demonstrated to the world how real socialism doesn't work at all. Many ideas, the sort of destructurization of society, get really popular in the West. So I would say that from a counterintuitive point of view, the European Union embodies several characteristics of Soviet era. The idea to make homogeneous countries with no tradition, the idea of abolishing the legal framework, their own tradition, the customs that characterizes that framework, and making a unique bloc of 27 countries, erasing centuries of history, is a track of Soviet mentality. So, many Western leaders blame rightly Putin for the disaster he's making and for his aggressive expansionist ambition towards Ukraine, his warmonger approach. On the same time, we had leader that put us into the lockdown that destroys our civil liberty during COVID, and they created a sort of permanent emergence, telling people what to do in their lives, how to conduct their lifestyle. They obliged us to stay home for 2 years. Then now they are going towards entering World War III. That is a very collectivist idea of a European Union that would lead other countries from above. There is not a sort of self-determination of countries which decide to cooperate on certain matters. The shape of the European Union resembles more of the Soviet Union, with a center of power that leads initiatives to others. You have not the freedom to choose your politics, your political address. So I would say that socialism lost everything, demonstrated wrong, deeply unethical, immoral, but the ideas that contributed to the development of socialism and its diffusion are still popular among Western elites, and we must get rid of them if we want to get free and to prosper once again. The European Union is seemingly to a huge cage rather than a free trade zone. So if we demolish the European Union, maybe we will rediscover again who we are and the place in which we live. We have socialist ideas in disguise, in my opinion, and what Javier Milei is doing in Argentina is a miracle from point of views, because he took power in a deeply socialistic country, and thanks to his cultural battle, he showed the contradiction of that socialist and collectivist paradigm, and is making Argentina free again. We must make Europe free again as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that approach. Other contradiction of this monster called EU, Claudia, is that they claim, and the press confirms, because the press is, as we know, an ally of the globalism. So they claim that they are on the side of Israel, right? But we see pro-Palestinian protests every weekend in major cities, like here in Dublin, in Paris, in
London. It's
London is not EU, but still.
Yes, but Keir Starmer is.
And the Jews and the Israelis living in Europe, they are not that comfortable as they were in the past. So, how much is EU with Israel at the end of the day, in your opinion?
I'm not sure, to To be honest with you, I think despite of United States, even how unpredictable as it is, Donald Trump, I think this, despite of United States at this moment, Israel can't count that much with European Union. No one can, but Israel, they are in a very delicate position at this moment. It seems almost historical. Uh, Today, I can see both right and left become day by day more really extreme. And when I mention extreme, I'm not talking about André Ventura or Meloni. Or no, I'm talking about movements that they are really super conservative or super leftists until the point that they touch each other. And what I can see now is a part of the right who hates Jewish people because they tend to agree that the state of the society as we know it is caused by Jewish people, and that there is some kind of obedience of some European leaders or world leaders to the Jewish people, and we must fight the Jews. That's one of the theories that I have heard. And on the other side, on the leftist side, you have another reasons to hate Israel, which is Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. I think Palestine is just it's just the newest sexy cause for leftists, because you don't see anyone protests about what's going on in Mozambique and in Africa in general. And
Or in Syria.
sorry.
Or in Syria.
In Syria, so and you see a lot of people being killed, and everything is very serious every day, and we don't hear a word about it. So it's all about Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. So these extreme polos, they are really touching each other in reasons to hate the Jews and therefore Israel. And so I don't believe Israel have a very comfortable position, as I told you. I think that no one really can or want to support them. At the same time, it seems like the lobbies from the left are way more popular than the lobbies from the right. And it seems to me that even right politicians or so-called right politicians are in this line where they don't know if they should support Israel or if they should recognize Palestine. And for me, recognizing Palestine in the state as it is being on the side of the terrorism. It's my opinion. I honestly don't know how Portugal remain neutral about it in not recognizing Palestine. It's something good. I think that might be because Paul Rangel, I think he's very fond of Israel, because otherwise I totally could see Antonio Costa doing that. But yeah, they are not they're not comfortable. But I think in general, it's not that you need to really stand on one side, because again, there is things in you can look at Israel and saying, well, I don't agree with that, and but you can put yourself outside the conflict, looking at the situation and have a rational opinion on it. And what I can see from an external point of view is a nation that wants to live in peace for many years, the other nation that sometimes goes there and puts some bombs because they don't like them, and the other nation is way stronger. So sometimes these type of conflicts like October 7 happen and have big consequences. What I think is we need to look where democracy is. When I look at that geographical area of the map, I don't see democracy in anywhere but Israel. And honestly, I hope that we can solve this in a better way possible, but I don't see how, to be honest. I don't see how. Maybe Trump buying Gaza. It's the way.
Yeah, it seems there is a taboo in supporting Israel, and as a matter of fact, I'm heading to Israel in June to participate in a cultural festival, which, like in theory, it should upgrade my CV, no?
Yeah. Be aware.
No, it's the opposite. I have to be quiet about it. If I say that I'm in a cultural festival in Israel, maybe some festivals in Europe won't accept my application, which is
really?
it's mad. Like,
and I think it's becoming the same
but
thing.
it's the same. Let's say if I go to the UAE, it's a success. It's not because I go to a Jewish nation. I'm not here flagging the David Star or anything like that. But if I make it to Dubai, it's also an achievement to be proud of. But that's okay. But Israel is a separate thing. So I think it's quite sad that you cannot be friends with that piece of land. That you need to be very reserved, because you can get into trouble just to sit at the same table as Jews. I think it's very, very sad. But we can have a separate episode on that, because there's a lot to be talked. Staying in that part of the road, Lorenzo, there is a country that has been in the pipeline as a EU member, but it doesn't seem to get in officially. And that country, as you may guess, is Turkey.
Ugh.
I would say you are not very much in favor of that.
I'm not at all. I'm not in favor of the entrance of Turkey in the European Union for a very simple reason, because Turkey is not a democracy at all. It doesn't respect human rights standards. We are seeing right now what is happening in Istanbul. The Social Democrat mayor has been arrested because he's the main opposition leader to Erdogan. And that's a country that is far away from the values we all believe in. And I don't believe that putting Turkey in the European Union will stabilize this group of nations. Instead, it's an element of confusion. How could you unite our Christian heritage with radical Islam? How could you put together a country that doesn't respect the rule of law with Italy or France, with Germany or Spain, despite the flaws we described previously? If Erdogan stays in power, and if Turkey remains in this chaotic situation, I don't see any condition for the adhesion of Turkey to the European Union. I'm in favor of dismantling the European Union for libertarian reasons, because it's a congregation of power that is hindering our freedoms. So I think that making Turkey part of Europe is a very dangerous experiment, and maybe instead of becoming a democracy, Brussels is going to become more like Turkey. I can't see any kind of similarities between Turkey and European countries. That's simply inconceivable. How could we think of Turkey as a European country? After all the things we saw in history, the Ottoman Empire, the violence against Armenian people, Turkey still don't recognize the Armenian genocide, which happened a century ago. That's no way Turkey could be part of the European Union. Really none.
Claudia, would you join forces in dismantling the European Union with Lorenzo?
Oh, of course. I want the European Union to blow, to be honest. It's a bad project. I don't have much to say. I think I started this conversation by saying that there is friends of mine that say, Claudia, but you are in your right to not like Ursula von der Leyen, but it's the same thing as you don't like the Portuguese government, therefore you want the Portugal to not have any government at all. But what I always say to these people is that it's a concept that didn't work. and won't work no matter what you do, because the problem is a matter of conception. You can't have a central government that was unelected, that no one hears about. We don't know anything about what they vote in the European Union. We just see the consequences like some months or years later. And we always, in my opinion, it's almost like you don't need a national government at all, because the main ideas seem to make the national governments seem irrelevant in everything. So I always state that the initial project, as Lorenzo mentioned, the CE, Comunidade Económica Europeia, seemed good, seemed a great project about freedom of trade, etc., etc., etc. Very good, and I think we should back there. But I know it won't be possible, because the plan is more deep. The plan is to erase identities. The plan is to have planified economics, and it won't work. And they always have amazing narratives to persuade you into remaining with them. And United Kingdom is being used as the ghost. Like they don't use Norway or Switzerland or rich countries that never went in. They use a country like, if United Kingdom would be successful in this Brexit thing, so the risks for European Union to collapse, because then there will be, I don't know, Polexit, Frank's exit, that would be real risks. And I heard it from people who are very fond of European Union, like federalists. They say, oh, but you think that it could be that easier for a nation to leave European Union, so then everybody would want to leave. And I think to myself, which kind of system is so good that you need to prevent them so bad and break their legs so bad in order for them to be unable to succeed? And I always mentioned it, that Boris Johnson wrote in his biography that Macron told him that United Kingdom will pay for leaving the European Union, and they will try to damage Brexit in his bigger proposal, which was to control the borders. And it's insane. If you keep up the posts of Reform UK, for example, Farage and all this class, all you see is that every week you see 100, 200, more than that, crossing the English Channel. And then you wonder, okay, I know that currently there are socialists in the power in United Kingdom. The socialists are what socialists are, so I don't expect much for them. For many, many years, 14 years, they also had the Tories on the power, and they had to deal with the same problems. But okay, there was a referendum to leave European Union. It was a scream on, we want to gain back the control of our borders. And I wonder, France doesn't have a word to say. If these people are departing from the coast of France, France doesn't see, France is blind. So I do believe that they are really trying to damage Brexit on this, because there's no way. To me, seems a very simple problem to be solved. You put a lot of police in French and in English Channel. So I can't conceive why every day, every week, more 100 people cross the English Channel. Then there you go, hotels and helps to everybody. If I want to go to work in England, I will have a big problem. If they don't need me, I can't live there. But if I go on a boat from France, I have everything. I have a translator. I have everything. It's like it's better than to belong to the royal family. So I think they are damaging Brexit in their sense, and they are becoming more authoritarian, because their people are turning themselves to nationalism, to patriotism. In Portugal, we were always very patriotic. We don't have these complexes of oh, you can't show your flag, that it's a very racist or whatever thing. We never had this kind of situations, but there is countries as England where people are kind of being criticized if they show the flag for some reason. And what I see now is people turning themselves to nationalism. They turn themselves to nationalism in every possible way. Like it's a matter of saying, this is my identity. I don't want you to erase my identity. We are all different. We are not the same thing. And you see that in the intentions of votes. I think the most countries have these new right-wing parties. I don't call them extreme right. I think it's stupid. They are not extreme right-wing. In some situations, they are not right-wing at all, which I believe is the case of Chega. But they represent a revolt, and people are following that revolt. And why is that? Because the European Union is failing. So it's very stupid when I see that Chega doesn't have a word against the European Union at all. When Ventura says in the debates, as he's doing, oh, I will stop the migrants from invading our country, I always say to myself, how? If you can't even stand and step in front of von der Leyen and saying, we won't take it, if you are not able to have this speech inside, how on earth, if you were elected, you would have this conversation with Ursula von der Leyen? He simply would not. And I believe that would be the case of some countries. So these decisions are not up to us anymore, are not even up to them. In the maximum, they are up to European not deputies, because as we know, the European deputies, they don't decide anything either. They are there, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's a bad project. I hope it could blow, but I don't really see how. How can we do that without a war, when they are becoming more authoritarian, when they successfully are damaging the only country that's managed to live, when they are trying to join in a forced way countries that we don't want, that we don't have cultural similarities with them, and with the majority of the countries turning themselves to nationalism. So this idea of European Union, federalized European Union, and oh my God, but we need each other so much because Putin will eat us for breakfast, and then Trump, and then Xi Jinping, we need to be federalized and deleted and vaccinated and everything. I think it's a very unpopular idea. And if you ask in the European Union if people want to leave or stay, I think it would be 50-50, more or less. And that's why they need to secure that by controlling the social media, by putting people like Le Pen in jail. That's their way of living, and I don't see how we are going to get out of this. That's very worrying.
As we come to an end, Lorenzo, can you unfold some path for peace and prosperity?
Yeah. I will quote a great Catholic French economist from the 19th century called Frédéric Bastiat, and he told, when you have commercial roads between countries, troops don't march over them. That's the core principle of classical liberalism. When you have free trade zones, you don't worry for wars, because wars comes when the bilateral relationship between states become tense. Vice versa, when we have free trade, the voluntary exchange between nations, we could flourish, and the economy it could grow extraordinary opportunities for us all. We should make commerce, not make wars. And unfortunately, the European Union is going towards a dangerous situation in a sort of warmongering direction. And that's the contrary of what I said. Another economist from the leftist school, like Keynes, said that wars contributed to promoting welfare. I don't know why. That's simply a crazy conclusion. And many in the European Union believe that coming to a third world war with Russia could promote a sort of general welfare because consumes will go up and the industrial complex will increase its expenditure and economy will recover magically. It doesn't work that way. If we want to be a free society, we should get rid of unfair regulation, of useless laws, and on the poisonous influence of government over economics. We should go towards a free market society in which people could exchange freely whatever they want, and we should renounce to the centrality of a state that imposes upon us what to do, what to think, and how to behave. We should be free to choose once for all.
I think that's a very positive way to close our conversation. It kind of resonates with the George Orwell book, I think it's The Animal Farm, where there are two mottos that they promote among the animals. One is 2 + 2 is 5. Another one is War and Peace. Now, actually, War and Peace is from 1984, but still, they are not unknown to the current monster called EU. So, guys, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I think you provide a lot of value, a lot of food for thought. You call out things that maybe people were aware of, but they couldn't verbalize. So you put it in a way that maybe will help people to understand what's going on in their own circumstances. So I think it was very helpful. So I want to express my massive gratitude for your words. So it was very, very insightful, and I want to wish you all the best in your endeavors. I know both of you are fighters, you are free thinkers, and you are making a change, in your whole circuit of influence. So keep it up.
Thank you for hosting me. Wish you a good night.
Right. So just for the audience, I want to thank you for staying with us. And I want to say what we have in the schedule. So tomorrow I'll be sitting with Marco Alexander, with whom I usually hold podcasts on Wednesday. Tomorrow we're going to talk about life by the Gazan border. Okay, we'll have back a guest that was with me last year. Her name is Adele Rammer. She was in the kibbutz when the barbaric monsters, animals of Hamas crossed the border and hold a massacre with the Jewish population. So she is a survivor. So she has a first-hand experience of how it is to live next to that regime. So I think she can add a lot of value when it comes to know things from a close contact point of view. So this will happen at the same time as today on a very total different approach. We have the League of Iron. So for those who are into football, Thursday we'll be here, same time, and Sunday we're going to discuss a philosophical topic. We're going to discuss life after death. Is there life after death? Is there a way to know if there is an afterlife? I also would like to throw these topics, so maybe it's something that you guys can start thinking about and discuss with us on the chat box. Is there life before death? Because I have the impression that most people don't live when they are supposed to. So I will discuss that with Guy Dazin, who was with me last November, and another Israeli writer. So that's what I have in the pipeline. And I want to wish everyone a very good evening. I know it's getting late. And we'll see each other very soon. So all the best. Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.